CMMS Radio talks about all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, focused on maintenance management. It's the people, the process, and the culture that make your CMMS journey a success.
And actually, hopefully, everybody's here after lunch. Hope we don't fall asleep. This may be a bad time slot for a talk, but I'm talking at the end of the day, and I'll be standing between everybody and happy hour. So I don't know which is worse. If you could put your phones on silent, that would be a good thing to do. And I'm happy to introduce Kevin Clark. He'll be the next speaker here, and he's the Vice President at Siemens. We'll be talking about asset management. He's got over 35 years of experience creating and leading world-class strategic initiatives, customer experiences, products, services, and sales. So why don't you take it away, Kevin.
Thank you. Is this working okay? No, yes? Doesn't seem like it's very loud.
Doesn't seem like it's amplified.
Oh, it's red now. Hello? All right. I'll take it up a notch then. So, good afternoon, everyone. Good crowd. So I like the crowd because the first thing I want to bring up is whether or not you're terribly sensitive. If you're terribly sensitive, then this might not be the conversation for you. So I'm not necessarily going to pick on anybody. I'm not going to say things that are sensitive, but we are going to talk about a few things that might trigger you just a bit. And it's intentional, and I plan to do that for you guys. So if you came to this session expecting to hear about Siemens, you're not going to hear that. You're going to hear about the things that we see as a struggle in the industry. Something that's not being dealt with maybe in the way that it ought to be dealt with. And that's the people. We're an industrial technology company. We build a lot of tech. Probably everybody in this room is in some way, shape, or form a customer of Siemens. Right? We build a lot of tech. And we feel it's also our responsibility not just to build tech, but also to help the people deal with the tech. And we're into an era right now with advanced tech that is impacting people's jobs in a way that they never would have anticipated 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? And it's just changing the way that we are seeing technology proliferate around the world. So what my goal here is just to bring some things up that are sometimes difficult to talk about, or maybe you're not even thinking about it in general, or maybe you're thinking about it and it's causing you to be not the best employee you can possibly be. So a few things will be sensitive, a few things will be uplifting. Hopefully there's a little bit of uplifting in here, but I just want to warn you ahead of time that there is some hard truths about people. So this is just a little bit about me. It's kind of hard to see. The screen's not super bright, but basically I'm a farm guy from Indiana. Grew up on the farm. We were just talking about it at lunchtime about getting up early, an early riser. We were up milking cows at 4:30 in the morning, right? And it just gets ingrained in you. So I still, to this day, get up early in the morning. It's something that I've always done. When I got done on the farm, it was either farming or go do something else. So I decided to go do something else. Went to school to be a diesel mechanic. And when I finished with that, I found out that I could make a lot more money in manufacturing than just repairing diesel engines. So I went into manufacturing for 10 years, turned wrenches, spent a lot of time on the plant floor, learning equipment in the manufacturing space, and beginning to do some pretty hefty engineering projects. It's a guy that grew up on the farm and went to diesel school. I wanted more out of my career of turning wrenches on the plant floor, repairing motors, pumps. I was more of a mechanical guy. Bearings, a lot of welding, and I wanted more. So as I went through the school of diesel engine repair and the school of manufacturing maintenance and machine operation. Somewhere along the line, I decided I'm going to go do something about it. And I think it's one of the elements that we're missing today when we think about the things that we're doing and how we're being impacted by AI. Back then, I wasn't being impacted by AI. I was already 28 years old, married, had some kids. And so I'm thinking about doing something different. You can't beat them, join them, right? So I went to school, got an engineering degree, moved the family to campus. You know, it was a big deal. Directly after that, I went to school for my MBA, in operations management. For those about 20 years or so, manufacturing engineering, automation systems, robotics, and all that for Caterpillar. Then I moved from there into Johnson & Johnson, where I took over globally for manufacturing equipment excellence. So that was the standardization of our 150 plants around the world, lots of travel. My whole goal, just some of you might appreciate this, but my whole goal to go back to school was get the heck out of maintenance. And of course that backfired spectacularly. But I did. I went into robotics and built some really cool MES systems, SCADA systems. You know, so it was very interesting work. But the moment J&J found out about my maintenance background, it's just like shifted gears. Like the way I explain it to like college kids when I'm talking to them is it's like that car out of alignment and it keeps going towards the ditch. Maintenance being the ditch. I couldn't get out of it. So anyway, it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me, right? Because that's what I try to teach young kids is go towards those things that seem to be just popping up all the time. And then go figure out how to make a living at it, right? And so, you know, repairing things and just maintaining, and that really turned out to be kind of a thing for me. That's just what I like to do. So where we're going today, it's a little bit different conversation. I wanted to kind of introduce this to you. This was my journey, how I got to be, you know, a strategic leader for Siemens, coming up from maintenance. And then, anybody recognize this statement? It's a pretty insightful statement. Many of the truths we cling to deep depend greatly on our own point of view, right? I think everybody can kind of agree to that. Like, I have perspectives. That right there kind of defines a lot of my perspectives, right? The things that I went through and the things that I succeeded at, the things I failed at, all of that created a perspective, right? That's Obi-Wan Kenobi said that, right? And I know it's a movie, it's fun, but it's wise words.
He was a Jedi.
He was. It's a really good one. So, don't be offended. So now I'm on the other side of the fence, right? So I grew up, a lot of my experiences, a lot of my perspective is coming from that time where I spent turning wrenches, doing the projects for engineers, moving into engineering, moving into senior leadership, and all of that became my perspective. And as I'm doing that, the technology just keeps getting more powerful and more powerful and more powerful. But at the same time, we're still fighting the same fights in our business, right? And as we go through this, I'll try to make this make a little bit more sense than what it maybe seems right now. But it's like the challenge of technology as it encroaches on us inside of our manufacturing plants. And what it really means is it means technology is coming for my job. Right? And I think all of us can relate to that. Every single day, I see another piece of technology in our offices that impacts me and the way that I do my job and the strategy. Right? I want to do it the old-fashioned way. I want to call somebody up, I want to talk to them, I want to understand their business, I want to understand the process on the manufacturing floor. But today in strategy, if you're not using AI to figure things out fast and to build out summaries and to understand how the business climate, we're already behind. Those are things that I have to continue to improve upon, not fight, but improve upon and find my fit, right? As you can see, I'm a bit of an old-fashioned guy. I came from that side. But every day I'm challenged to not be old-fashioned, have to openly think about things. Too many people offended yet? Good.
Wait for it.
I'll think about whether I say it or not. So, a couple of things, and I think this is important for everybody to kind of understand, is that we have continual industrial transformation. How many of you are not dealing with industrial transformation? Not dealing with it. That's the answer I was hoping for, thank you. Industrial transformation has been going on for, I would say, 15 maybe years, where we really started talking heavily about digitally transforming. Do you know what we're digitally transforming? Humans. Digital transformation is not for the technology, it's for us. And I think we miss that sometimes. That transformation, we're developing systems for us, not the other way around. And so we have to kind of understand what's coming at us. And I know I was one of them that fought when they wanted to change. I was all for change as long as it wasn't me, right? But the challenge is that digital transformation means humans have to change. And that's where we get hung up an awful lot of times. That's where a lot of projects fail, is we don't take care of the people. We don't bring people up at the same pace that we deploy technology, right? And you'll see that as we go forward that there is a pace difference between us and technology. And so those are some of the things that I'm recognizing, and I think others in our organization recognize that pace is what's important when it comes to us changing fast enough. But I'll have to say, I went to school to be an engineer. That was hard at 28. I was a farm kid, so I wasn't thinking about going to college and taking calculus, so I didn't prepare for any of that. So as soon as I got to college and they made me get in the calculus class, yeah, that was after the first time. Then I got done the second time. But those are the kinds of things that are going to hit us right square in the face, where we need to make a change, but that change just feels too hard, and it almost feels personal, right? Like there's something wrong with us as people inside of manufacturing, so we have to change, not technology. So there are things that we are going to go through that require us to change. So, I want to talk about these real quick. The shorter innovation cycles, I'm to the point now where I say every 8 months, software is going to roll. Not changing software packages, but the technology advancements, you're going to see massive change in the atmosphere we're in right now with AI and the advanced technologies, and how everything from the physical automation to software automation, about every 8 months, we expect to see something new coming out. We went through AI. Everybody talks about AI in the most general terms. And there was NLP and everything else, all the things. You had generative AI, you had agentic AI. Now I'm hearing a lot about causal AI. So and this is happening less than a year. And it's gonna speed up. So those cycles are shortening. But our cultural depth and our cultural resistance isn't changing as fast as technology is. And then the last one is the shortage of skilled workers. It's a freaky thing. So I work with the Society of Manufacturing Engineers. We do a lot of work trying to figure out how do we help people to improve, how do we get them qualified for the next level. They see it differently than I'm seeing it over on this side. They see it as, I need to get them with more CNC experience, more certifications, more things that they can do. Maybe they become a certified welder or something to that effect. They see it that way. I see it differently, and I'll take you through how I see it, but it's more of a shift of the way we think and less of a go get more certifications or go get more more technical training. It's all up here. By 2030, we're expecting about 3 million people short in manufacturing, which doesn't make any sense when you start seeing all the reductions across the U.S. Just doesn't make sense. So the numbers are, I wouldn't say flaky, but there's a whole other element. It's not on this slide, but you start talking about the generations and how they see us. My entire life, I've tried to prove to people how sexy manufacturing is, and so far, I've failed miserably. And so the young people don't want to come in because we're old, antiquated, a lot of manufacturing plants are dirty, you gotta work crazy hours, you gotta work hard, you know, there's a lot of negatives to it. But part of it is that as a industry, we're not pushing the technology forward. So the rest of the world is moving faster than manufacturing in many ways. We have elements of manufacturing moving fast, predictive, moving pretty fast. A few other areas are moving fast, but bringing all these systems together and really aggregating all that data and doing all the kinds of things that we need to be doing, we're not doing that very fast. So, is technology really better than people, right? So I felt like I better just throw it out there. This is a good time to get offended. Human error and variability. I knew it. Every day I walked into Caterpillar, there's a big banner above the door. Every single day said, people are our most valuable asset. Every single day I read that. But there was also another statistic in the same manufacturing plant that humans or people had the highest level of error in the plant compared to equipment, compared to anything. Humans had the highest level of error. So when you think about that, that's us. Like, I have the opportunity to make a decision, a bad decision. I have the opportunity to make a good decision, right? And at the end of the day, it could be an error. But if you think about that error, it's not just I pushed the wrong button. It is that I'm the designer of that product. So that error can happen at the very beginning of the product life cycle, very beginning, and go all the way through manufacturing. I don't know if you guys remember, about 20 years ago, this commercial that was all over the TV about orthopedics and hips, and that Johnson & Johnson put out bad hips with a problem. That was my plant. It was my machinery. I was maintenance manager. We did find it. All it was a bearing. And the bearing was, we did 100% inspection on those. And it was just a bearing. Had I been monitoring that bearing, I would have found that. But I wasn't. That was 20 plus years ago. Most of us weren't at that point. But you couldn't find it, even with 100% inspection. It was a hairline fracture in those hips. The worst part about a failure of that level is the fact that it's in somebody already, and it has to come out. So, a second surgery. So those are the kinds of problems that can be apparent inside of it. Whether it was a person, that it was a design problem, or whether it was a manufactured equipment problem, is irrelevant. What it was all generated because of human error. Knowledge silos and hoarding, we all know this one, right? I spent years at Johnson & Johnson finding all the squirrel stores that our maintenance people had hidden away in corners of the maintenance shop. And you know why they did it? Because our process failed. We keep squirrel stores, everybody knows what a squirrel store is, hopefully, right? We keep those because the process failed. And as maintenance people, we were pretty conscientious people. We want to make sure that the plant continues to run, so we keep extra parts so that when that failure happens, I don't have to worry about inventory saying, oops, we don't have that part. Even though you told them 100 times over, get that part. So you keep it tucked away, right? We have to eliminate that. That was hard. That was hard to tell maintenance people you have to eliminate that, because then they look at you and say, then you've got to be good. You have got to do that. All about human error. So the things that we're shifting and doing, it's all about that human error. And the silos, we built a CMMS, it was a Maximal system back then. And my biggest detractor for it was this guy, his name's Sam. He's been there forever. I think he was there when dirt was invented. But he had a unique name, it was Sam, right? So I ended up naming the CMMS Strategic Asset Management. Sam. I bought him because I did that, right? Because he knew I was listening to him. He knew that we were building something based on what they needed. And we advanced very quickly because Sam bought in. What else do we have? Oh, resistance to change. Oh, the one I want to get to, and all of you guys probably are resistors, so I don't need to go into that one. Bad behaviors. So we all know that we have our bad behaviors. I spent a lot of time in safety technology. We like to bypass things, right? Because we have a brain. We can figure things out, and we can also justify, hey, is it kind of safe if I just do it this way? You know, when you start thinking about HAZOPs, you start thinking about lockout, tagout, you know, all the things that guide and direct us for a particular reason to keep us safe. But we as humans can make a different decision, right? I think those safety guys are whacked, and I'm just going to be in there for a second, right? I had to go to the John Deere plant when the guy was compressed inside of the machine, and his best friend did it. It was tough. That was tough. We have bad behaviors, and that was caused by a bad behavior. And those are the things that I think as humans that we need to take into account as we're moving into technology. Right? Can you tell which side I'm on, technology or human? So I want to tell you, there's no side. There's no particular side. These are just things that I want to bring out because I think it's important that we all start talking about humans and what we do and the things that drive us, the passion, the conscientious thought patterns that say, I want to make sure my assets stay up and running. And sometimes we say at all costs, right? Where technology excels. So, processing speed and scale, flat out. Not even close. We cannot compete with technology. There's no way. I mean, I have a tough time remembering half the names I learned today, right? I depend on things like LinkedIn. Quickly, when I see somebody, I'm like, who is that? And I jump on LinkedIn real quick. Oh yeah, I got it, right? What I'd love to have, it's probably ethically and other things wrong, but I would love to have something that it recognizes people before I have to ask the question. Like it can say, oh, hey, so-and-so, you haven't seen them for 20 years. They have a wife, they have kids, here's their kids' names, blah, blah, blah. It takes me all the way through, and you met them back on this date, and that would be awesome, but it might be inflicting on some people's privacy and some other things, but that would be awesome. But you think about what technology can do at that moment. That's very possible to have a system like that recognizes people instantly and draw all that data back that I would struggle to do. Zero fatigue and error. So you've seen you've seen the videos lately with the robots? It's kind of cool. They put a robot on a conveyor system and they had a worker on the conveyor system. It was super cool. I hated the result, but the robot kind of kicked butt, right? And it was basically just moving packages on a conveyor and sorting them and rolling them over, you know, and it was They ran it for, I don't know, it was 48 hours at least, right? But it was impressive to see it happening. But what does that do to all of us, right? All of us sitting in the room, every single person in here probably has had a wrench in their hand at some point, right? It starts drawing on what are the things what are the things that are going to impact me in 5 years? If I can see a robot doing that today, and they weren't fatigued. The only reason they had to swap the robot out, and this was the interesting part, they were swapping that robot out. Battery. Right, so they had another robot that would just step right in. That one would step out, and the other one would step in. Battery life, you know, it's pretty normal. But man, does it mess with the way you start thinking about how we do work. One of the worst things out there, don't ever listen to people that tell you this. I hear it all the time. I hear it from Society of Manufacturing Engineers, even though I have great respect for them, is they want to list out all the jobs that are safe from AI. I think that is the worst advice anybody could get. Because what it does is it says, I'm running from AI, I'm not going to work with AI, I'm just going to run from it and go places where it can't exist. Well, I'm here to tell you, it's going to exist everywhere. So the point of bringing all this up is to make sure that we're starting to talk about these hard topics. Where do we fit? Where does humans fit with technology? I think that's where this, the rubber starts hitting the road, is how do we get from where we are today as maintenance professionals to a place where we can actually work side by side with technology? There are no guarantees in life, by the way. So even if you do that, your job still could be impacted. My job could be impacted. We have, I won't tell you how many, but we've got a lot of developers. And over the past 12 months, they've had a reckoning. Like literally a serious reckoning. Like things that would normally take us months to build, all of a sudden with the latest technology, literally weeks. The biggest thing we're going through is their transformation. And their transformation is, it only took me a week to do this, now it's taken me 2 weeks to actually tell somebody that I'm done because I don't believe that I'm done. That's been a real problem, not a isolated problem, that's been across the board. That they're afraid to say, I'm done because it doesn't feel like we're done. We should be going another few months to actually get this thing done. So they're going through the same kind of reckoning that maintenance folks and administrators and others are going through, right? It's all up here. It's all messing with us. We just can't consume it this fast. Accessibility, we know accessibility is just going to continue to grow. Advanced technologies, AI, everywhere, right? So where do humans excel? Emotional intelligence, yes. That's where we excel. We do really well at emotional intelligence and empathy and understanding how people feel. Right? AI doesn't do that. Creativity, innovation. I think a lot of people get confused by the fact that it can go make a video for us. You can say, hey, make me a video and do this, all these fun things. You can get really good at telling it to go make you something, and then it makes you something pretty powerful, and you're like, whoa. It's not creative. It's just doing what you told it to do. Creativity came out of here, right? You knew what you wanted. You just now have a tool that can go do it for you, right? 20, 30 years ago, I used to say I could outthink technology, and I actually could. There's a lot of things I wanted to do, time travel. And we just couldn't do it. Technology wasn't there. The crazy thing today is there's actually studies going on to try and figure out time travel, right? AI says you can time travel. I don't know if you guys saw that before. AI thinks you can time travel. Complex context and nuance, dynamic, physical, adaptability. That means that we can adjust. It hurt. But I was up underneath of our deck this week, and I was moving rock in. I couldn't get a shovel under there, so it was me physically under the deck. And I could move and do things that no other piece of equipment could possibly do, right? That capability is not there yet for robotics, but you guys need to go visit Boston Dynamics while you're here because they're doing some crazy stuff. They're doing stuff that we can't do, for sure. I don't know if you ever saw the creepy way that those robots get up. Their legs roll up underneath of them, and yeah, it's crazy. Ethical and moral judgment, this is the big one, right? This is our planet. Technology is here because of us. We're the ones that brought technology here. Unless something comes out in these UFO files that we didn't bring here, the UFOs didn't bring it. But when it comes to ethics and morals, that's all us. Last thing we ever want is for AI to start defining what's ethical and what's moral. So those are things that still belong to us. So this is a bit of a digression, but I think it's important. You guys, everybody works in a very proactive environment, right? So I'm talking to the wrong crowd. So everything is proactive, no reactive work whatsoever in your plants.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting that 33% of all CEOs do strategy or they're thinking in a reactive mode. Let that settle in for just a second. They're also the people that make decisions on whether you have a job. They're also the people that decide on how we bring AI into their plants or into their organization, right? So there's an element of, if you start looking at the other numbers of AI deployments and failures of those AI deployments and other things, this 33%, I'm sorry, is it 33?
Yeah,
Yes.
1/3.
Yeah, 1/3 thing. I sounded 25 then. It's also in alignment with some of the other failures of projects and why we're in pilot purgatory in most of your organizations, right? You're probably trying a whole bunch of stuff, but you never really do it. It's because most of us are working in a very reactive mode. And it's a bit scary that our CEOs are also working in a very reactive mode, right? The thing about AI is it does allow us to be very programmatic, to be very structured. It allows us to be able to make decisions in advance, right? Worrisome that we have this, but positive that AI can help. So, struggling with advanced resistance to change, short-term focus. Everybody, your return on investments are what, 10, 20 years out? That's the return on investment, or is it 1 year? It's 1 year, right? That short-term focus inside of organizations is killing manufacturing, right? Because manufacturing doesn't work year by year. Manufacturing works as things come out over time, right? But when we have to do a return on investment for a technology, we have to show that it immediately pays back. And that works against people because people are doing things inside of the organization to try and make that return on investment work. But the real people on the plant floor are just looking at that and shaking their head like, ain't gonna work. It's not gonna work, right? So there's a real disconnect between the way that we view value for the things that we do inside of technology and the way that we actually do it. Also goes down into low employee engagement and other things. Low employee engagement where we're not being trained the way we ought to be trained. We're not getting what we need to get in order to find our fit in the organization, right? When you think back about the 33% was on the last slide, that's also the person that's approving or disapproving of those types of initiatives for employees. The pace at which we deploy technology and the pace at which technology is being advanced is nowhere near the pace of how people are being brought into the picture. Right, so I'm talking to leaders, and I'm also talking to folks that are on the plant floor. That pace difference is what's slowing the advancement. There's other factors, obviously, but I'm talking about people in this context. So, Rob Hubbard is a writer for workforce development. And he just recently wrote this, and I think it's true. The era of being a passive worker. You think about the term that you spend. I'm always excited when I see somebody retired and after 50 years at the same company. That's super exciting, but it's not our future. That number keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller, right? The terms for people at manufacturing plants is getting smaller. It has to do with people moving on, it has to do with people being let go, it has to do with, well, lots of factors, right? So, you guys have probably heard plenty about it. You got the boomers, you got the Xers, you got the Ys, you got the Zs. All of my family's in asset management, by the way. I raised them right. I've got a son that's Y generation. I got a son that's Z generation. Distinctly different. They were raised in the same house. They're distinctly different. I won't go into the challenges of either one of them, but the aggressiveness and the way that they look at things is like night and day. And so we're dealing with that too. We're not just dealing with whether this technology is good and whether my employees can find their fit or not. It also has to do with how the generations have grown up. Z generation is super good with technology. Most of them will tell you I'm not good with technology, but they're really good with technology, right? They really get it because they grew up with that phone in their hand, right? When we brought those phones in, those phones were super fun. We didn't need them. We didn't need smartphones. We wanted smartphones because they were a lot of fun. Play games on them, we could call people, and we could take pictures, and we could do videos, and I mean, there was just so many things that we could do with a smartphone. Well, we didn't need them. I don't need all the cameras I have around my house either. Who in the right mind would put cameras around their house? Me thinking 20, 30 years ago. Why would we do that? We didn't need it. We just wanted it, right? That's kind of where we are with AI right now. We don't really need it, but we want it. That need is starting to get more powerful, right? Just like smartphones, we didn't need them. But after a while, all of a sudden, we need them. Every single person in here has a smartphone, right? Other than maybe the few boomers. Sitting here, got two, right? Now we need them. AI is on the cusp of us needing it, right? Because we're transforming, because we're making that. Lots of words. Think about 10 minutes. Thank you. Data literacy and analytics. So think about this is more about what can we do to figure out our fit? Because I'm not in here to tell anybody in this room what their next thing ought to be, because I don't know what any of you do. But this slide is more about beginning to think differently, beginning to think about how technology is impacting us, not so much how technology is being forced upon us. Right? When I get onto Google, I immediately take it into AI. I always use Google with AI. So now I talk to Google, and I begin to tell it what I want, not just type in companies with manufacturing plants, right? Because that's what we used to do with Google. And then it would bring us up a nice list of companies that like manufacturing plants or something associated with it. But now you tell it. Tell me about companies with manufacturing plants, and how many of them do they have, and how big are they, and how, you know, we really dig into what we need. So that whole conversation is starting, right? So when we think about data, data isn't bad. You hear about bad data all the time, right? How good is your data? A lot of it has to do with the fact that data was created for humans, right? This is before all this advanced tech came. We were putting data in systems, and we have data. Yeah, we got lots of it. But it was created for our usage, thinking about how we consume data. It was never thinking about how AI consumes data, right? And so that's why we talk about data is not good, because it was designed for us. And so as we transition to data that's designed for AI, the power goes through the roof on what we can do with data. AI prompting knowledge capture. So it was what, 2-3 years ago? Like it was all the buzz for, it was a little longer than that. All the buzz for AI prompting. In fact, I knew some universities that were talking about putting together a prompt engineer role, right? Now it's, everybody does it. That's what it really was. It was us changing our language and beginning to speak like technology speaks, right? It's like, I'm a single language person. I know English, that's about it. I can say enough cuss words in Spanish, but as far as English, that's all I know. But we need to learn the extra language of data and AI, right? So we can speak to it. We can have an engaging conversation. That's just going to get better as we go. Advanced troubleshooting robotics. Everybody sees the videos. Everybody understands that AI and robots are coming together. That's creating this whirlwind of technology. You're not seeing them in the plants, but they are in the plants. They are starting to show up in the plants. Hitachi ordered, what was it, from Boston Dynamics? Anybody from Boston Dynamics in here? It was like 10,000 robots Hitachi ordered from Boston Dynamics. You don't buy those just to put them on a shelf someplace. You're buying them because you're going to put them in manufacturing someplace. Right? Continuous adaptability. So that's one of the things that we as humans have always struggled with is the continuous part, right? That's why we get stuck in our cultures. That's why I'm pressing the fact that what we're seeing right now, the battles that we're going through, isn't culture. It's mindset, right? We got a mindset on the way that things ought to be, and we've also got a mindset that I will not let technology take my job away. Right? And it prevents us to open up enough to be able to say, how do I fit? And where do I fit? And what is the next thing that I need to be doing? Because that's, I can't do that for you guys. I'm struggling to figure it out for me every day. Right? Where do I fit? And so that's the message, is think about where you fit first and the mindset that you have. Not necessarily the culture. Don't want to take away from our culture and the way that our community has evolved, but think about the mindset. So the last page, there is one primary reason for technology, and that's us. Without us, technology has no reason to exist, right? It's part of the mindset. That's the way we communicate to other people, humans, management, leadership. That technology is there for us. Technology is pacing faster than people can consume it. Do you agree? Yes, way faster than we can consume it. I mean, by the time I've learned something, there's another thing, right? Advancing technology will continue to impact our tasks, redefining the roles that we all work in. So there are jobs that have been eliminated, but there are also tasks that are going to be eliminated. Like if I never had to schedule another meeting, I would be so happy, right? Let AI do it. Let AI figure out how to schedule meetings, and then And then at the end of it, I don't know if you guys are doing this, but man, using the summarization of AI after a meeting is so much better than my notes. My notes are horrible, comparatively speaking, because it's got every word recorded. It understands what's been said. It understands who says it, and then it puts it in the summary. And it also, at the end of it, it puts, here's all the to-dos. Here's the thing that AI heard on the call. You need to go do this, need to go do this, and need to go do that. There are things in our roles that are much better for technology, and we need to open the door up, wide open for those things. General level of understanding and access will continue to rise. So our general level of understanding, often we think AI is making me dumber, right? Because I don't think as much as I used to. But your level of understanding is so much higher. There are things that we should spend more time researching instead of just letting AI, be our information. But our level of understanding has never been higher, right? Never have we had to learn or prepare for our next role, even though we don't know what it is, right? I think that's where a lot of us are, is what is our next role. So I'm a maintenance guy, and I see technology coming. I see AI built into my maintenance management system. I see AI built into my condition monitoring system. What's next for me, right? What's left? Go out there and just turn the wrench, right? I think that's where everybody's head is starting to be. Is where's my fit? And what's right for me in maintenance? So I say now is not the time to assume any role is safe. I don't think now is the time to make that assumption. I also don't think now is the time to, I'll just wait and see. I'm going to wait this out. I hear that a lot from, especially the boomers and the guys my age and the earlier X's. A lot of them will say, I'm just going to wait this out. I think it's a trend. I think that's super dangerous. Now is not the time to disrupt simply to disrupt. I think we got a lot of us, I'm a disruptor. I kind of coin that phrase every now and then as mine. I love to disrupt things. But there are times where we can't disrupt just to disrupt, because that often sets us back. And then the final thing is, now is the time to learn more, to expand our comprehension, and to explore new ideas. We're just not very good at that as humans, because we have all the way back to the beginning of the presentation, we started talking about what Obi-Wan was talking about. We cling to the things that creates our perspective, and we cling to that. So now's the time to maybe uncling a little bit and allow you to be able to think clearly about what's next, what's your fit. That's what I got. Greg?
I was hoping we had time for this question. So when it comes to AI and a lot of the people I talk to, all of us, right, we're probably thinking, oh, Industry 4.0 was this great thing, and we got to kind of get prepared for that. And then as we look back, look at the present, maybe a little bit forward, I don't know, there's still a lot to do there. And this kind of feels like maybe that wait and see is influenced by, well, we don't know if this is really going to stick around. When's the bottom going to drop out? And we know what it really is, because we're seeing it improve. And I trash on AI all the time, but what I'm trying to do is say, all right, let's make sure it's working right. That's all I really care about.
Yeah.
So do you feel like we're at risk of seeing another kind of trend where new innovation is ignored and neglected because this feels like it might be different based on the way you frame it?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do. I mean, I think there are times to put your foot on the brake, right? Most of us in the room don't have the authority to do it. We don't have the authority to tell the world, hey, can we just pause for a minute? It's going like too fast. My head's getting a bit dizzy. We generally don't have that authority to slow it down. But we do have the authority to make sure it makes sense in our business, right? We do have that authority. And I don't know, there's just so much tech out there these days. I don't think we can exercise all tech that's out there. I think some of it's going to come out and it's going to sit idle for a bit until something else matures a bit, and then it can come back out. right? Like, I mean, we were doing automatic transmission back in the 30s, but it didn't really kick in until more like the 70s. Automatic transmission started becoming a thing. And eventually, stick shift was just gone, right? So technology can exist for a while and never really catch on. I think that's more the need and want conversation. Do I really need it, or do I just want it because it's super cool, right? Other questions?
Will this presentation be attached to the, our little app or whatever? that you-
Probably not. I didn't put it in quick enough, so if you want it, I can get it to you. So just come find me and I'll get your email and I'll send it to you. Anybody else, same thing? Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, this is Built too. Just give me cards and I'll make sure to send the deck to you. Nothing proprietary in here. You didn't hear anything Siemens. You heard Kevin today.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yep.
Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit CMMSradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.